So here's the battle. I believe it was the last of this particular stream, and it was supposed to be against Wadapus Rex, so I actually put this team together to fight him. But he was having issues, so long-time viewer, Sharpedo43 showed up, and I decided to have a battle with him today instead. So yeah, I battled him a lot of times in the past. He's obviously a very good battler. You pretty much all should know him by now. And yeah, there's the teams. As you can see, some interesting stuff here. I'm bringing a very good defensive core in Celesteela and Toxapex, and also some really potent offensive threats too. So I'm hoping that'll be able to overwhelm the very good Sharpedo43. So I'm gonna go ahead and lead with my Tapu Koko as he decides to lead with his his Gelatina, which is Nihilego is its actual name. And yeah, this is kind of advantage me, but I don't want to risk him being a choice scarfer and having obviously, the poison move, Sludge Wave. So I decided to go out into my Toxic, see what he would do, and he ends up going for Power Gem, so he's probably predicting a switch of some kind, but I actually take that pretty well. It was actually kind of a risk for me, because if he went Thunderbolt, I would have obviously died, so probably a really dumb play early on for me, but it didn't end up hurting me in the long run, so I'm going to bank on the fact that he is Scarfed and decide to go for the Scald. And, yeah, he ends up going into Swampert. Unfortunately, I do not get the burn, and I'm forced to switch, so I decide to go into this Gyarados again. And this is still my Z-Splash Gyarados I've been trying to get off. Get the Intimidate off on that Swampert before he's able to get the Stealth Rocks up, which isn't so bad. And I'm thinking that, okay, he's probably going to switch, so I decide to go for the Waterfall, knowing that he has some things to go into that I can't just go for a Z-Splash. But he ends up just Roaring, so it ends up being a good play for me anyway, because I get some damage on the Swampert. And, yeah, he's actually going to go ahead and roar me into Heracross, and this is going to be a Mega Heracross, which obviously a very potent sweeping Pokemon. And here, he goes out into his Decidueye, and I'm going to go ahead and Mega Evolve, and I actually ended up clicking, Pin Missile, which actually would have done good damage to this thing, but then it misses, so that kind of infuriated me, and I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to go for a sub to see what he does. He very likely could Brave Bird me, but I just wanted to see, and instead he just goes for the U-turn, so that is advantage me, because now he's pretty much, he has to switch due to his U-turn, and yeah, I have a sub up, so I can get pretty much a kill on something, pretty much guaranteed, and he ends up just going back into his Swampert. I'm just going to go for the close combat, and that is thankfully enough to just take that guy out, which is pretty awesome to get rid of that thing. He was obviously hoping that he'd survive. I think he usually carries that berry that heals 50% if he's 25% or lower, so really critical kill there for me. And he's going to go right back as Nihilego, and it doesn't matter because I have my sub up, and I know that I'm going to be able to get a hit, pretty much guaranteed. And I decided to go for the Close Combat again, being that it is a very powerful move. And yeah, it's neutral against this guy, and as you can see, it takes it out because Nihilego does not have great defense stat. And I'm able to get, two of his Pokemon out, which is pretty excellent. Now, he is going to go into Mega Deontay here, regular Deontay right now, but then he's going to Mega Evolve into Mega Deontay. And obviously, go ahead and get the Mega Evolution up. I do not want to stay in because he'd outspeed me and then obviously kill me. I'm also at -2 defense, so he could literally sneeze at me with anything. Thankfully, as long as he doesn't have the Nature Power, which turns into Thunderbolt if, the Electric Terrain is up, I know that my Celesteela can pretty much just completely wall Mega Deontay, which is pretty good that I brought it. Celesteela is pretty much a direct counter. There's really not much they can do, even if they do have a favorable hidden power, aside from in the Electric Terrain. But I don't think he's going to carry that because he doesn't have a Tapu Koko in his own team. Anyway, in comes Rotom Heat, and that is going to pretty much hard check my Celesteela, though, because obviously it's X4 resistant to Steel. And, yeah, it also threatens me with both of his stab moves. Overheat and any electric move is not going to be cool. I decided just to go for the Protect, though, to see what he was going to do, trying to, see what what makes him tick. Although I already saw the leftover, so obviously I know it's going to probably be a bulky set, not a Scarfed or Specs one. But, yeah, just going to go ahead and switch out because, screw that. And I decided to go into my Tapu Koko, which is kind of a risky play. If he does switch it up to Overheat, it would do a lot. But we'll see what he does. He ends up, I believe, just going for the Toxic. So he predicted the switch and tries to get the Toxic on. It's not a big deal on Tapu Koko. I mean, obviously, residual damage is always going to hurt. But obviously, I'm not planning to stay in with Tapu Koko too long at any given time. So it's not a huge deal. It definitely could have been worse if he... Well, actually, it could have been worse, but obviously he can't Toxic either of my two defensive walls, which are Celesteela and Toxapex. And he switches into his Decidueye again, which is going to take, obviously, the electric move pretty darn well. And I decide to just hard switch out. Although I think I do have U-turn or Volt Switch. I don't know why I didn't go for those. I don't know, but I go out in a guard chomp now, and he's just going to go ahead and U-turn. So that's actually going to do some nice damage to him, though, because I am a bulk chomp, so I do have the rough skin and on top of it the rocky helmet, which is going to get some nice recoil damage there on the Decidueye, as he's going to go, obviously, right back into Deontay. And here I make a dumb play. I was thinking, okay, maybe he's going to try to predict my Celesteela or something, and I don't know. That was a bad play, just staying in there and taking the Moonblast. I was kind of expecting to predict a switch, and I really, really wanted to get damage on this Mega Deontay because it is a huge threat to me if I lose Celesteela, because even my Toxapex can't pretty much can't win one-on-one because of Earth Power. Anyway, I'm just going to go for a Toxic of my own. Kind of a risky play. Well, not really risky. Obviously, he does have Magic Bounce on Deontay, but I predicted a switch. It would have gotten Magic Bounce back to me, but I can't be Toxic on Celesteela. So it wasn't really a risky play, but I did get the prediction there. Getting the Toxic Poison off on the Decidueye, which isn't a huge deal because all it seems to be doing is U-turning. And here he decides just to switch out into Rotom Heat. I don't know why he didn't just U-turn. I think that would have been a better play. I don't know. But I'm just going to go into my Magikarp again, aka Gyarados, and this time I, take the Stealth Rock damage. And this is not a very good matchup for me at all, because, he obviously has electric moves. And I just make a dumb play here. Because he's a bulky one, I could have out-just bet him and just went for a Waterfall, which would have done damage, but I figured, maybe he'll over-predict, and I'll just go for a Dragon Dance. That was a really bad play. If I was going to stay in, I should have just went for the super effective Waterfall, which it seems kind of obvious to me, actually, because that was one of the last things I had left that can actually get super effective damage on that Rotom Heat, which is going to cause me huge ass stake later. And he switched back into Celesteela against his incoming Deontay, and obviously that's not a good matchup for him. He's going to go back in, or you're going to go into for the first time here is Bisharp, which is going to take a heavy slam. Okay, it does have the resistance, but only X2, so or divided by 2, I guess. And, it does some decent damage, actually. And he is going to go ahead and switch out back into his Deontay. And I guess he was thinking that I would switch out, and I do. I decide to go into my Toxapex. And he just goes into his Mega Deontay, which I'm thinking, okay, Toxapex has huge defenses. I think I can take one Earth Power. I want to get some damage here on this Deontay, and I'm hoping maybe for a 2-hit KO with Scald. I don't really think so because I don't have investment in special attack, but we'll see. And I end up actually getting, it's going to be a 2-hit KO, which is pretty great. Now, obviously, he's going to be able to get the 2-hit KO with Earth Power, so I can't stay in, and I do not want to lose my Toxapex, so I am going to switch out to Celesteela, which also is immune to Earth Power. He's probably going to predict this, but it's a switch I have to make. And because of Regenerator, and he ends up does go for the Earth Power, so that's excellent for me. And because of Regenerator, I should come back in just below 75%. So, obviously, Regenerator is a broken ability because it allows you to heal when you switch out, which allows you to keep your Toxapex pretty darn healthy, especially if you combine it with a healing move on the Toxapex as well. Anyway, I decided to go for the Leech Seed. Somewhat of a risky play because I could have actually gotten bounced back at me, but I don't think he's going to risk staying in with his Deontay, knowing that his Deontay is his main offensive threat to pretty much the rest of my team. He needs to keep it alive, so I don't think he's going to risk keeping it in. So the Leech Seed worked out for me, although he is going to go back into his Deontay, which I cannot Leech Seed, of course. And yeah, now I have a decision to make. It doesn't really matter, though, because I don't think this Deontay can actually do much to me anyway on Celesteela, and not to mention he is Toxic Poisoned, so I can just actually protect and Toxic Stall if I wanted to, which I believe I decided to go for the Toxic. That's right, I predict a switch, and I believe I predicted a switch into this Rotom Heat, which is excellent for me, because getting this thing Toxic Poison is critical, because I did lose my Gyarados earlier, which is like the one thing I had to like super affect it with a super effective move. I mean, I do have, I still have my Toxapex, but if he carries Thunderbolt, he'd be able to win this matchup against my Toxapex. Anyway, so getting him Toxic Poison is going to be very useful to eventually wither this thing down, and as much as I hate to do this, this is pretty much the situation I put myself in. I have to rely on my defensive core of Toxapex and Celesteela, which is a really good defensive core, to be honest. And yeah, so I go for the Protect just to get a little bit of extra Toxic Poison damage, and now I'm going to go into Toxapex, hoping that he'd go for an Overheat again. Instead, he just goes for a Volt Switch, which is a very good play on his part because it's going to keep my Toxapex at low HP, and he's just going to go into Deontay, which he knows I really can't stay in because I'm in yellow HP. I have to switch out. I cannot afford to lose Toxapex. and I just go back in my Celesteela, which he's probably going to predict this time, not going for another Earth Power. Instead, he decides to go for the Diamond Storm, which is Deonce's exclusive move. I don't know if it's still exclusive, but it still hits pretty hard, and it's still physical. It actually increases defense sharply now, so it's actually slightly better than it was in Gen 6, although it's still physical. And it ends up actually doing some decent damage, mainly because I don't resist it. So there you go. And damage against Celesteela is legit, because Celesteela has no way to reliably recover its health outside of Leech Seeds and its leftovers. And, yeah, so obviously there's a limit to how much I can take of those Diamond Storms, so they might start racking up for him. Anyway, back into GoldenEye, his Decidueye, and I end up getting the Heavy Slam on that, which nearly puts it in KO range. Unfortunately, not quite. I decided to go for the Protect to, get some extra toxic damage. Unfortunately, this is not going to quite lead to his death either, because he's going to have a sliver of health remaining, and that's unfortunate, because basically because this Decidueye has leftovers, it can negate the first turn as long as it can pretty much infinitely U-turn, even at that sliver of HP, despite being Toxic Poison, so the leftovers will kick off first, as long as he can get a U-turn off. But yeah, he just U-turns this turn, and he goes into his Bisharp again, as I just Heavy Slam, which is going to get some more chip damage here on the Bisharp, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Now, Bisharp is obviously something I'm kind of afraid of, because a knockoff would definitely hurt due to Bisharp's insane attack stat, and also losing my leftovers, as I mentioned, is my main way to recover HP, or one of my main ways, is definitely not something I want to do. So I'm like, okay, do I stay in or do I switch out? I decided to switch out into my Heracross, because he can't knock off Heracross, and obviously I have the resistance to it, and he makes this excellent play, and, it's a move I had to make, so, I guess it's pretty obvious, but it was still a pretty excellent call there, going for that Iron Head, predicting my switch into Mega Heracross, and at 1 HP I can't switch back in due to hazards, and yeah, I decide, obviously he's going to go for the Sucker Punch. I really have no choice but just to let him kill me, but though that was a clutch survive, I wasn't able to make anything of it. Anyway, he is going to go ahead and knock off my Toxapex, but I survive, which was critical, and get off that Recover, which pretty much negated all of the damage that he's been able to work up on my Toxapex, because he wasn't able to quite kill, and I get back to full HP thanks to 2 Recovers, and I don't even care, Rotom. I don't think this guy is actually carrying Thunderbolt, and I can live Volt Switches for days from bulky Rotom, so here we go. Gonna see how well I take this, and as you can see, it does less than half, which is exactly what I wanted to see, and I don't think he has Thunderbolt, so that's pretty awesome. I'm just going to go for a Recover. Just in case he did have Thunderbolt, I don't think he'd be able to 1-8 KO me anyway with it. So a Recover was a pretty safe play. Just scout to see if he had it. And, yeah, obviously, if he didn't, then I'm at full HP against whatever he brings in, including this Decidueye. So, I don't have Baneful Bunker, so I can't force this guy to kill himself, but he is just going to go for the Leaf Blade anyway, which is fine. I'm just going to go for the Scald, actually. And I figured nothing he has wants to take a Scald. He can't, obviously, Deonce's going to die to it. He doesn't want to take a Scald on his Bisharp, and he doesn't want to take it, obviously, on his Rotom. So it's pretty much a safe play. I can pretty much Scald with impunity against things now, but I do not want to stay in against Deonce still. Although I could have probably finished it there. I did have probably enough HP to live in Earth Power. I decide it's more important to keep my my thing healthy, my Toxapex. Plus a crit would really suck, so I just go into my Celesteela. And that does trigger Regenerator again, and I'm just going to Leech Seed on the Predictive Switch yet again, which he ends up doing because he cannot afford to lose Deonce. And getting the Leech Seed off on the Rotom is kind of nice, although Rotom doesn't have a lot of HP. It's extra damage, and like I said, I really have to wither this thing down because it is just pretty much a massive pain in my rear because it can do damage to my 2 defensive Pokemon, and yeah, I don't have anything to really hurt it anymore, so I just need to wither it down. He's going to go for an Overheat against my Protect again, and yeah, he's still poisoned, though, and Leech Seeded, so we're going to get some nice residual damage this turn, which is pretty much the key to getting rid of this thing. And I believe I decide to go back into my Toxapex again. If he, Volt Switches, whatever, if he Overheats, whatever, it's a good situation for me, no matter what he does, which he probably is going to go for the Volt Switch. He doesn't want to take additional residual damage, I don't think, by going for another Overheat. So he probably is going to go for the Volt Switch, at least I thought. Instead, he goes for the Overheat, which is literally amazing for me, because I do go into the Toxapex, who has the resistance. He now has a special attack drop, which means he can't even do that much now with Volt Switch. And yeah, he's going to be taking another turn of Leech Seed and Toxic Poison damage, which is starting to rack up. And this Rotom Heat is now at yellow HP, mid-yellow. And he has to go for the Volt Switch this turn, obviously. And it's not going to do a whole lot thanks to the -2 special attack. And he's going to go into his Bisharp. And like I said, I can Scald with impunity. I know that he couldn't hurt me, so Scald is good against no matter what he goes into. Unfortunately, I still don't get the burn on this Bisharp, and he's going to try to Sucker Punch my Toxapex while I recover, which is advantage me. And, yeah, he does go for the Sucker Punch again, which I do kind of play into. I decide to attack him this time, because if he's just going to sack his Bisharp, I'm just going to let him, because I don't want his Bisharp interfering with my Celesteela at this point. But, yeah, it's going to give him another switch into this guy here, his Rotom, and he does have Pain Split, which I was hoping he didn't have, because that makes it a little bit harder to wither down, but it's just going to be a matter of time before I can get rid of this guy, because he is Toxic Poisoned, and as soon as I get rid of Deontay, he can't switch out anymore, and the Toxic is literally limiting his time in, so eventually he's going to be forced here to just go out into Deontay, or lose his Rotom Heat, which, yeah, as you can probably tell, I have this game pretty much in hand. He is going to try to wither down my Toxapex, obviously, by Pain Splitting. He's trying to put it at a position that he can KO me with a Volt Switch on his Rotom Heat. And it's a pretty good play, but obviously he's not going to wither me down quite enough. He tries to go for the Volt Switch again this turn. He's probably hoping I don't recover, but I'm just going to go for the Scald, I think, because it's just free. And I could have recovered there. But I know that if he does stay in, the Scald is probably going to kill him. If he switches out, it's going to kill Deontay, which is his last offensive threat. And now all he has left is this poisoned Rotom. It doesn't matter if he has Pain Split anymore, because eventually I'm going to get enough turns to win. I decide to go out in my Celesteela. He's probably just going to go for a Volt Switch, which is fine. I know that I can just actually Protect Stall a little bit here with my Celesteela. No matter how much Volt Switch does, which it does a little bit, under half, I would say. Which means after a Protect, I'm definitely going to be able to live another one. And, yeah, at this point, it's only a matter of time. And, yeah, we're just going to have to wait for it to actually happen. But that's pretty much the match. Obviously, it was a well-fought match. I wasn't purposefully trying to get a, obviously, defensive, stall fest of a match here. I did bring, probably my favorite defensive combination in this generation, which is Celesteela and Toxapex. I also brought some offensive stuff, too. It just ended up being the case that, I had to do it because pretty much my offensive stuff kind of fizzled out, and it just wasn't enough to counter what he had left. But it was still a very good match. Very well played, I think, on both sides. I do get the Leech Seed here off on Rotom Heat, which is going to expedite this process a little bit, and I think he's dead next turn. So, good game there, Sharpedo43. We're going to have another one. He's still #1 in the NGDL, and he's actually posting Wi-Fi battles, which are excellently narrated, by the way. He's an excellent narrator. He's actually posting his old Gen 6 battles. I don't know if he's going to be posting his Gen 7 ones after that. I assume so. But go ahead and check out his channel. He's a really cool guy, really awesome, and he's a good young YouTuber. He needs more views. He deserves more views. So, yeah. I am in full endorsement mode of Sharpedo43. Excellent battler, excellent person, and good narrator. So today's question of the day is, let's talk Pokemon synergies. So obviously I used what I consider a very good defensive core in this generation. The only weakness obviously being electric, which is a Toxapex plus Celesteela. Today's question of the day is, name 2 Pokemon that you think have excellent synergies together, and it's a Pokemon that you like to use in the same team. So, Pokemon that you personally use on the same team and do it because of their excellent synergy. So, yeah, leave a comment about that, and I hope to see you guys again next time. Later.